So I've tried to do these YouTube videos a few times. I've really struggled with it because I haven't really wanted to put the effort in. I've had a bad mental state, but I've now gained a bit more confidence in myself, a bit more confidence in my abilities and my editing abilities, so I thought I would give it another go this year as sort of a New Year's resolution. Now, my first video, I wanted it to be something a bit close to home, so I thought, why not do the last achievement I need in one of my favourite game franchises? Dead Space is one of my top game franchises. I've played all the games, I've loved them all. I played the first one when I was young, and I loved every second. Now, the last achievement I need to get in the game is the Impossible Mode achievement, where I need to beat all 12 chapters in, well, not in one go, but without dying. I only get one save slot, and I have to re-save over that every time I want to use it. If I die, I can reload the save point, but it will lower my difficulty, and I will be locked out of the Impossible Mode achievement. So we'll see if I can make it through in one go. Now, the main character of this game is an engineer called Isaac Clarke, and we learn from the intro why he's actually on this repair mission to come to the Ishimura to begin with. We start the game by watching a video call from his girlfriend Nicole, which seems to end a bit abruptly, but yeah, I'm sure she's fine. Now, joining us on this mission are 4 of the characters. We've got Kendra Daniels, Zach Hammond, Chen and Johnston. During our approach to the Ishimura, we try to use the automated landing, but it seems to malfunction a bit, so we have to fly in manually. And after happy landing in the hangar of the Ishimura,
You're down in the bus port booster. Got a fire in one of the stabilizers and singularity core's a mess. Could be worse than nothing.
hey, if you can take off, it's a successful landing in my books. We leave Johnston on board because she gets an injury during the landing, and we enter the Ishimura main lounge area to find that there's no one here. Now, this is a bit odd. This is supposed to be a ship that cracks planets. It should have hundreds of people crewing it, if not maybe 1,000. So no one being here is major red flag. Hamid asks us if we can go check the Ishimura's damage report on a screen in like the little staff area. We go check it and well, it's not great. Alarms start blaring and the whole area goes into lockdown. Kind of feels like we're back in 2020. We watch helplessly as Chen gets acquainted with the new inhabitants of this ship and then wait for Kendra to open the door so we can get the hell out of there. We take an elevator down to a maintenance area where we find probably the most iconic weapon of this series. Now, this is the plasma cutter, the series' most iconic weapon. Throughout the game, we will get many more weapons, but honestly, I don't think I could bear to throw the plasma cutter away. I will always use it in every playthrough I use. Now that we have the plasma cutter equipped, we can go break the fuse on this door and meet the first enemy of the game. These are the Necromorphs, the main enemy of the Dead Space franchise. These ones are specifically called slashers. The name suggests they're really into horror movies.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, and also want to cut you to pieces. What that makes these enemies unique to Dead Space is they don't go down easy. You have to cut off their limbs to really kill them. A headshot will not do. After we take care of that Necromorph, we head to the tram station control room where we can see Kendra and Hammond on the other side. This is where they give us the first real objective of the game. We have to fix the tram by getting rid of a broken tram and finding a new data board. I decided to go for the tram first because this is where we get one of our best tools for survival, the stasis module. This will slow down anything it hits, which is how convenient because right there is a malfunctioning door that will kill us in one hit. Now that we have the stasis module, we can use it in the next room to get the broken tram off the tracks and complete that objective. While waiting for the broken tram to be pulled off the tracks, a few Necromorphs will try to attack us, but with the stasis module it makes life a bit easier and there's recharge stations around, so we've got no reason to worry about using it. Now that we've got rid of the tram, we can go back the way we came and go to the maintenance bay to find the data core that we need. On the way to the maintenance bay, we find a body that's fully intact, which is a bit weird.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
Yeah, so they can pretend to be dead bodies on the ground and try to trick us. After entering the maintenance bay, we can see there's a lot of explosive canisters littered around the place. Really sounds like an accident when it happened, doesn't it? We try to get the data board out of the storage room, but we find it's locked, so we have to go upstairs to find a fuse to reactivate it. When we get there, it turns out we can either turn off the elevator or turn off the lights. Since we need the elevator, we have to turn off the lights, which plunges the whole room into darkness and makes it very easy for Necromorphs to ambush us. As I try to enter the storage room, I get attacked by 3 Necromorphs, but the stasis really comes in clutch and I totally do not panic. Anyway, after I manage to juke around them and take them out from a safe distance, I go in and collect the board. This is where we find the first workbench of the run. Workbenches are scattered around the Ishimura and they allow us to upgrade our rig and weapons in exchange for power nodes. We can find them around the ship, but we can also buy them from the shop. I won't be bringing up every time I upgrade, but in this one, I'll say I upgrade my plasma core and I'm putting up a couple upgrades in my suit to give me a bit more health. Now that we have the data board, we can go insert in the control room and send Kendra and Hammond off to the bridge while we go back to the Kelly and get it ready to escape. Of course, being chapter 1, we weren't really going to escape, were we? This is where we find our first different variant of a Necromorph. This one is called a Leaper. Yeah, they really aren't creative with these names. Once we've taken care of the enemies, we get a new objective. We have to go find the captain's rig in medical. This is where we find the first shop of the run and lets us upgrade our suit. Yeah, I have the downloaded suit and I'm going to fucking use them. And this is where chapter 1 ends. This gives us a good idea of how the game's going to play out and what to expect in the future chapters. We start chapter 2 by taking a shortcut through to medical, and on the way we find another piece of life-saving equipment, the kinesis module. This allows us to pick up and throw items that we couldn't lift up normally. Really good against necromorphs. As I make it to the medical deck properly, I find a security staff who is not doing too good. From her body, we loot the pulse rifle, which is just a futuristic assault rifle. The only question is, why the hell is an engineer that comfortable with a rifle? Ignoring our concerns about Isaac, we enter the medical deck and it is an absolute mess. Blood and bodies everywhere. The biggest thing that we notice is that the morgue has been barricaded off. There looks like there's no real way to get in.
A hydrazine tank might blow it open. Just need a detonator, like maybe a shock pad.
Okay, Isaac, you came up with that a bit too fast for my liking. Our next objective is to find some shock pads and a tank of something volatile that'll explode when we shock it. I decide to go for the tank first, and on the way I find a survivor who... Yeah, I feel like that every day after I come home from work. We enter zero-G therapy, and honestly, this is just one of the best improvements this game had. The gravity controls work so much better. In the original Dead Space, the only way we could move in zero gravity was look at a wall and jump to it, but here we have free movement for wherever we want to go. We fly over the gap and get the tank that we need, so now all we need to do is go get the shock pads. So we backtrack and we find a room that's suspiciously big and open.
Hazardous anomaly detected. Quarantine activated.
Ah, this is going to be a running trend, isn't it? Luckily for us, we can put our kinesis module to good use and use the poles around the room to get rid of the necromorphs and save ammo in the process. Once we've cleared out the area of the enemies, we can search around and we can find Nicole's office. Inside is an audio log which will start us a side quest. I wasn't originally going to plan to do these, but I end up doing them anyway. As we head deeper into medical, we find... Oh god, are they dead babies? Yeah, these things creep me the hell out. I don't like babies in real life personally, but I don't exactly want to see them like this either. These are lurkers. They are a common enemy in the game and they will love shooting the shit out of you. They can be kind of annoying, but by far they are not the biggest threat in this game. No, that comes later. Once we have our shock pads, we return to the barricade and make our explosive to get through to the emergency room. In the emergency room, things don't look much better, but we do find a hologram of Nicole, which we can follow into a secret room where we'll find another audio log that tells us where she went next. Now, listening to the audio log, it tells us that she's gone to engineering to do an autopsy on a dead necromorph. We'll catch up with her later though. After fighting our way to the morgue, we find the captain's body and try to retrieve his rig. I did say try. Now these are infectors. These are what's making all the necromorphs on the ship. I slow down the captain so I can go deal with the infector, because if I leave him alive, I will have a lot more issues to deal with. I have a bit of fun messing with the captain before putting him out of his misery and grabbing his rig. We send the codes to Hammond and he tells us that the ship's engines are offline. So we're going to have to go to engineering so we can refill the engines and get them going again. I could have easily walked back, but why would I do that when the tram is right there? The chapter ends with us entering the hangar once again and Hammond opening the doors so we can take the shortcut down to engineering. After looting the area, we head outside and make our way towards the maintenance tunnel where we take out a lurker just for a bit of fun. Something I haven't mentioned is how this game handles chapters. In the original, everything was separated by a tram ride, where here, it is seamlessly integrated into your movement around the Ishimura. This is another change that I like. It makes the Ishimura feel like a big ship that I actually have to take time travelling around rather than taking a tram to a small area. Once we have made our way through the maintenance tunnels, we find the control room where we can check the engine status and find...
Yeah, it makes no sense. They're out of fuel. The centrifuge is offline.
Does anything work on this ship? So to get the engines working again, we have to fire up the centrifuge, refuel the engines, and then actually start the firing sequence again. On our way to start the refueling process, we do find our next weapon. This is called the Ripper. Now the Ripper fires saw blades that is suspended in the air to rip and tear. Wait, that's the wrong game franchise. Here is the perfect time to mention that unlike the original game, where we had to buy every weapon from the shop, throughout the game we will actually find each weapon, so that saves us quite a bit of money. Replacing my distraction with a distraction, I find the room where Nicole was performing her autopsy and find another recording. This gives us some lore dump about how the mutation works in the necromorphs, and then she also mentions that there are survivors on the mining deck. Right now we don't have access to that, but when we do, we will find out more from her side quest. After making our way across the catwalk, we find the first lever to activate the refueling station and drag a gondola over to reach the other side. No, Isaac, no rush, it's not like it's a matter of life or death or anything. On the gondola ride over, we find our next new enemy, the Spitter. She spits acid on you, which does damage over time and slows you down. We find the pump controls offline, so we need to find a keycard to open the door. But who knows where that keycard will be? You know, I didn't think it'd be that easy. We then get a video call from Kendra, letting us know she's alive. I didn't mention it earlier, but she got separated from Hammond when the infected Chen attacked them in the bridge. Now, to activate the pump control, we do have a little bit of a choice to make here. We can turn off the oxygen, which means we'll be relying on oxygen refilling stations, or we can turn off the lights, which means it will be harder to see, but we don't need to worry about oxygen. I choose the lights because it seems like the easier option, and then head back into the control room. I then head towards the centrifuge to get that activated. Nothing to really say here, there's just another mini lockdown event and a long corridor to the centrifuge itself. In order to reactivate the centrifuge, we have to reattach the two motors on the side and then go press the button on the control panel. This does mean that we need to take a mini elevator down and walk into the path of the centrifuge arm in order to make our way back. Bad news, it is instant death if it does hit us. Good news, it is not just instant death for me. This was the first real worry of the run, as if I died here I would be losing a few hours of progress. Luckily, I make it through quite easy, and now it's just an easy walk back. You've got to be fucking kidding me. After surviving another potential insta-kill event, we make our way back to the main room, and now all we need to do is reactivate the engine. On our way to the engine room, we find this gross, fleshy mass growing on the walls. Here, we find a guy strung up to the wall. In his hands, he is holding a flamethrower. This isn't a weapon I tend to use in this game, but it is helpful with swarming enemies. We also find a juvenile guardian. Right now, they're harmless, but they won't stay that way. On the bottom floor, we also find a new enemy, literally called Pregnant. I'm not making that up, look at the wiki. These guys are big, bulky, and once damaged enough, they can release little parasites called swarmers. Now, swarmers are easy to deal with, but they can be a bit of a pain when other enemies are about because they stop you from attacking. Once we get to the engine room, who would have guessed it needs another power cell? We insert the power cell, and the room goes into lockdown. Boom, 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 the lockdown is over, but now we have another problem to deal with. See, we got the ship engine working again, but now we're heading through a debris field and our defense systems are down, so we're going to have to go fix that before we get torn to shreds. Now this ends chapter 3. Overall an easy chapter, and now we can move on to chapter 4. That was weird. We start chapter 4 with a long tram ride from the back of the ship to the front. We're on our way to the bridge to meet Hammond, and on the way, him and Kendra get into a bit of an argument, but Isaac just shuts that shit down.
Hey, knock this shit off. We're into the debris field. We get the ADS back together, or it's over.
As we walk the hall towards the bridge, we get a quick jump scare before reuniting with Hammond and finding what remains of Chen. With nothing else to do, we launch the escape pod and then check what our next move is. We are told we can reroute power to the asteroid defense cannons, and Hammond tries to convince us that he didn't know anything about this thing called a marker.
Isaac, about what Daniel said. I don't know about any illegal mining or the marker. I swear, I'm just here for a repair mission.
Now, the marker is a religious artifact from the Church of Unitology, a fake religion in this game, but we will learn more about them as we get further into the game. We head towards the security booth to reactivate the elevators, but are met with our first mini-boss. Now, these are brutes, they're big armoured bastards who deal a lot of damage. We get ready for a fight and... that felt a lot easier than it should have been. Once we've reactivated the elevators, we go down towards the first fuse box and find our next weapon, the contact beam. Now this feels more like a tool than a weapon, just like the Ripper. This is probably a mining laser of some sort. After replacing my flamethrower, I make my way into the next room and find the floor is damaged, but as long as we don't stand in it, we should be fine. We divert power and go to the next fuse box. On the way, we find our first view of the actual marker itself, or at least a recording of it. On the floor there is a weird looking ritual circle, and if we do a little dance in it, we get a creepy log. Lucky for me, I can't read. Seeing the necromorphs have the same issue as me, we make our way through a maze of whatever the hell these are, and come across another brute. But this one should be a bit harder, right? Never mind, I love this contact beam. After stasising these wires, we only have one fuse left to get the ADS system back online. On our way back, I put the flamethrower into storage and buy a couple upgrade parts for the plasma cutter and the contact beam. These upgrade parts give us special abilities on each weapon, but we have to unlock them in the workbench first. On our way to the last fuse, we get to try out the contact beam's secondary fire, which cements it as one of the main weapons I'll be using for the rest of the game. We divert the power once again and...
auto-targeting offline. Calibration data not found. Fuck. No auto-targeting. The cannons are useless.
Things can never be as simple as pressing a few buttons, can it? Luckily, this next part is a vast improvement over the original. In the original, this would have been a turret section, but here we sync each cannon up to our gun and fire at the asteroids ourselves. We sync up all three cannons, find someone's rig, and enter the ship again. Kendra then calls us and tells us about a message that's playing from medical.
This is Senior Medical Officer Nicole Brennan. Medical is a sanctuary. All survivors, please join us.
Yeah, there's nothing suspicious about that message at all, and this brings us an end to Chapter 4. So far things are going good. I haven't really struggled that much, and the weapons I have make me feel a bit more comfortable. I'm choosing to ignore that. We barely get into this chapter and we're already getting attacked by a new enemy. These are the different smaller forms of something called the Divider. I'll get more into him once we see a full form of him. I also found a schematic for an upgrade for my suit, so I decided to buy it while I'm walking past the store. I guess I didn't have any clean suits available. We arrive at medical and things are a bit different since we left. In the short time since we've last been there, all the bodies have been cleaned up and the hallway has been cleared out too. We enter the waiting area and the doors lock behind us. Our comms also get jammed so we can't call Hammond or Kendra. We start hearing a voice from somewhere. I seriously don't see any speakers and it's definitely not from our rig. Since he wasn't really being any help, we decide to find our own way through medical, finding survivors who...
Kindly avoid disturbing my other patients.
What is this?
Research, of course. I'm so close to finding that missing factor. A unitologist would understand.
Is this guy really a doctor? Here we find the fully grown version of a Guardian. Okay, so we did fight one earlier, but I already written the script and I forgot to show it. A fully grown Guardian will spit out these little pods that shoot projectiles at you and have 5 tentacles that we have to shoot off. But if we get too close, it will instantly kill us. Making our way into the cryogenic lab, we find the fake recording of Nicole. I mean, it was really fucking obvious it was fake. And learn what it's like to be a necromorph, as the doctor who we heard earlier stasises us. The doctor reveals himself to be Dr. Mercer, a unitologist who believes the necromorphs are the next stage of life. He gives us the typical villain monologue before releasing a necromorph. This is the Hunter, a necromorph that was experimented on to the point where its limbs regenerate when sliced off and it cannot be killed. Kendra helps us by opening the door for us and we make our way back to the waiting room to plot our next move. We find out that we can open the locks from Mercer's office, all we have to do is get there now. We go through the emergency room and fight our way to Mercer's office. On our way we find our next weapon, the line gun. Now I don't know if this was a tool or a weapon, maybe someone can tell me, but it does as the name suggests, it fires a line of energy out. While we're waiting for the door controls to restart, we hear from one of Mercer's victims that the air is being poisoned in hydroponics. Mercer helps us realise how bad this situation is by pumping air in from hydroponics and gassing the whole area, making it impossible to breathe. We rush back to the waiting room and restart the oxygen controls so we can breathe again. We then make our way back to cryogenics so we can get some liquid nitrogen to stop whatever's poisoning the air in hydroponics. Mercer then appears like the anime villain he is and does another monologue before the hunter rejoins us to attack again. Like any other villain, he walks off assuming we are going to die to this thing. This gives us a chance to cut off its legs while it's in the cryogenic chamber and freeze it solid so it can't bother us anymore, which brings chapter 5 to a close. Now instead of going for the main objective, we start this chapter by starting a side objective. Where we froze the hunter, we find a tissue sample which we can scan in a room we cleared out earlier in the game. This tells us that the hunter was originally a man called Harris, a man found on the colony who was suffering from the marker's influence. This side quest basically shows us what Mercer did to Harris and what experiments he ran to make him the hunter. We find a hologram in the ICU which shows us one of their sessions together. In this log, Harris mentions Mercer asking him to get something from ore storage, but we can't get there until we unlock the mining base, so that's just another objective we can't do until we get to that point. We take a shortcut through to hydroponics and make the enzyme in this machine. But before we can use it, we get a call from Elizabeth Cross, one of the workers on this deck. She tells us about something called the Leviathan growing in food storage. And now we're going to get onto why I don't like this chapter. See, Cross tells us about her crew have been turned into these things that she calls wheezers. And she tells us we have to inject them with the enzymes since they are connected to the Leviathan. Now there are 8 of them scattered around hydroponics and it just feels tedious to go after all 8. It is a stupid thing to dislike, but having to hunt down 8 of the same enemy gets boring after the first 4 really. Anyway, we move into one of the main hubs and get swarmed by necromorphs, but weirdly we don't actually go into quarantine. After taking care of them, we find our last weapon of the run, the force gun. Now I can't explain why, but I just love the look of this gun. It just feels weighty and it really does pack a punch. As the name suggests, it just shoots a blast of kinetic force at an enemy. You can actually see it rip the skin off each enemy as we use it. We take out Weezers 1 and 2 pretty easily, but on the way to Weezer 3 we find our next new enemy. These are called Exploders. They have these massive pustules of explosive material and while easy to kill, they can cause a lot of damage if they manage to get close to you. Here I got a little bit cocky and impatient, thinking I could make my way through the area without killing the lurkers and reaching Weezer 3 who is defended by a guardian. Thank God I had some large medkits available, otherwise this would have been where the run ends. With Weezer 3 taken care of, we can now move to the next area and take care of the Weezers there. Stab, brute, stab, stab, you get the idea at this point. Now the last 2 Weezers are a bit further away and we have to make our way through some fire tubes. But after that it's just more the same. Now that we've took care of them, we come to our first real boss fight of the run. We have to go into food storage and take care of the Leviathan. I grab what supplies I can before starting the fight, but once I enter, the doors close behind me and the Leviathan wakes up. His first phase has us damaging his tentacles as he shoots them out at us. Now I'm really bad at dodging these, but I manage it, and after that we move to his second phase. His second phase has him spitting things at us and we have to shoot the little pustule in the centre of his mouth. After we deal enough damage, he'll move on to his last phase, where he mixes both his attacks together. He'll also fill the room with gas, which means we have to worry about oxygen at the same time. Now this is the closest I came to dying in the run, but thanks to me having a lot of large med packs, I'm fucking gonna die! Oh, thank Christ! Oh my god! We managed to space the fucker out and we come out the other side completely unscathed. Mostly unscathed. With all the gas cleared, Cross tells us about her partner on the mining deck who was making an SOS beacon, which gives us our next objective. This finishes off chapter 6. Now this is the chapter I was dreading, both with the repetitive quests and the boss fight. But now that we've beaten the Leviathan, this marks the halfway point of the run. Heading to the mining deck, we find that the survivors have been booby-trapping the area in hopes of surviving the necromorphs. We try to preserve the traps by using a box to walk past them and find the ore storage mentioned in the Hunter side quest. We find an audio log in there that mentions Nicole made a report on the bridge about what happened. So we go back to the bridge, listen to the report, and then we find ourselves
Back in the fucking building again!
If I never see hydroponics again, it will be too soon. Luckily, this is the last objective we need to do for this side quest. We find an audio log from Mercer talking to Harris the moments before he became a hunter, and we are rewarded with the experimental stasis module. Now this upgrade makes stasis even more valuable. It will not only completely stop necromorphs in their tracks, but now it will damage them over time. With the quest complete and the upgrade in tow, we return to the mining deck so we can find the launch tubes and send out the SOS beacon. All we need now are the admin privileges and the actual beacon itself, so we go for the admin rig first. We head down to ore processing and here we meet an armoured slasher. These are a bit harder to kill than normal slashers since we can't cut off their legs, but the stasis module makes it so easy. We get rid of some big rocks in this room, find the admin rig, and head off to find the SOS beacon. On the elevator ride down, we get a video call from Hammond, who's hiding in some vents watching some unitologists do some sort of ritual in front of the marker. After experiencing some headaches, we push forward and find Kyne's hideout, which is part of Nicole's side quest. After listening to those logs, we learn that Nicole went to Mercer's quarters, which means we can't progress the quest until we get to the crew deck. Getting back on track, we head for the beacon and get a gondola ride where we get to do a bit of a shooting gallery before finding Nicole. She helps us open the door to the SOS beacon, but then needs to find her own way back to us. Now that we have the beacon and the rig, we can return to the launch tubes and...
Error. Launch tubes obstructed.
oh no. Anyway, it seems our only option is to use the big hunk of space rock we can see and launch it with the SOS beacon attached. Don't know why we can't use the kinesis module and just punt the fucker into space out there, but you know, I'm not the game designer. We break some tethers, indulge in some shenanigans, and head back to the control room. On our way, we upgrade our suit in the shop and change into probably my favourite DLC suit in the game. Hey, I'm going to show all the DLC suits one way or another. Once we're back in the control room, we launch the rock into space and an old friend comes to say hello.
Quarantine activated.
I preferred him when he was an ice cube, so the hunter is back and he's a bit pissed that we froze him, but luckily with our new upgrades he isn't hard to hold off until we can get the door open and run back to the elevator. Of course something else has to go wrong though.
Array receiver not responding. Oh shit.
We suddenly remember the whole reason we came to the issue to begin with. The communications array down and we need to go fix it so we can actually use the SOS beacon. But with our new objective in hand, we finish this chapter, and honestly, I'm feeling quite confident about this now. We have the upgrades and we have our 4 weapons locked in, so I think I've got a good shot at making it through this. To get to communications, we have to head back through the bridge, and on the way, Kendra tells us about a ship nearby called the Valor. They heard our distress signal and they want to help us. With no time to waste, we head down to the communications array, and once we arrive, we find out it's been sabotaged, but it is fixable. To do this, we have to do a connection puzzle. Basically, we have to get from the power source to the middle in one solid line. Completing the puzzle, we get a message from the Valor mentioning that they found our escape pod, the same one that had Chen in it. We try to raise the antenna to get a message out to them, but it fails to extend, so we make our way back to find out what the hell's going wrong with it. On our way back, we actually meet the full form of the Divider, a lanky bastard who is nothing but a pain in my arse through this playthrough. Once he's been taken care of, we go to the control room and find...
Still can't reach the Valor. What's happening with the antenna?
It's blocked by... It's the Leviathan.
Seriously, do I have to be reminded of hydroponics again? Luckily, this boss is a lot easier than the actual Leviathan boss. We have to use the ADS cannons in the area to break his weak spots open and destroy them. Bang, 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 we kill the Leviathan again and go back to activate the controls. I begin to think Isaac's pretty cursed. The Valor crashes into us and all hope of escape seems lost until Hammond reaches out and tells us about a ship that's at the crew deck. Now if only we could find a new singularity core. Well, they won't be needing it anyway. We fly over to the Valor's airlock and make our way in to end chapter 8. Now the next couple of chapters are going to be a bit shorter, so we should be flying through these. So I messed up a little bit here. I forgot to hit record and I only realised about 5 minutes into the chapter. The only thing we missed was entering the Valor, finding the crew decimated. We also discover a new enemy type, a slasher that has a stasis module fused with its body and makes it unbelievably fast. One upside though is if you manage to hit the stasis module, it'll actually slow the necromorph down and any necromorphs around it. Now, Hammond tells us about a nuke that's on board and it is unstable from the crash into the ship, meaning we're going to have to jettison it into space. I believe this is a new addition to the remake because I don't really remember it being in the original game. Anyway, any explosion in this room will set off the nuke, but luckily only 2 exploders spawn in here, and there are spikes that we can take care of them with. Once we power the system with a battery, we can jettison the payload. Honestly, there isn't really much this chapter. All we really do is walk, 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 kill some necromorphs. Okay, I'll stop being unoriginal now. The further we get into the ship though, Hammond starts saying he is Chen and starts acting a bit delusional, and it all comes to a head once we find the core, and well... Now in the original, his death was a bit more brutal, being ripped apart by a brute, but this death just seemed a bit more fitting for him. It's quite poetic that he gets to die with his corporal. We say a sad goodbye to Hammond and grab the blood-soaked core, rushing through the ship as it explodes, and we end chapter 9 on a bittersweet note. We got the core, but we lost Hammond in the process. With 3 more chapters to go, we head back through the bridge to get through to the crew deck. Now this place is unsettling. I love the atmosphere that they've created in this section. You can really see the ritualistic madness that went on here. We get told to go find the override key from the supervisor, who was last seen in the gym. Naturally, I go there with no distractions. No distractions. Anyway, after I'm done playing basketball, I get back on track and get the override key, heading into the crew deck fully and finding Mercer with Jacob Temple. Now, we saw a hologram of Jacob earlier when we were getting the SOS beacon. Hi, Jacob. Bye, Jacob. Because the world really hates Isaac, the hunter is back. There isn't much else to say except to cripple him and run. We talk some corpses. They seem nice, and head towards the first tentacle we need to destroy. This will be our main objective of the chapter. We have to find each tentacle weak spot and blow it up. Then the hunter will spawn, we have to cripple him and run away. The only real noteworthy thing to mention is on the way to Mercer's quarters, Isaac has a delusion of his last talk with Nicole. Through notes and clues throughout the game, we learn how Isaac and Nicole met. Now, Nicole was a psychiatric doctor who was helping Isaac's mother, who was a unitologist. Nicole was getting Isaac's mother out of unitology, but Isaac then pushed her to take the job on the Ishimura, which put Isaac's mother in the care of her father, which then leads to his mother killing his father, then taking her own life. While grieving, Isaac ends up lashing out and blaming Nicole, which ends...
You know what? Go to hell, Isaac.
Badly. This is why Isaac is so hell-bent on saving Nicole. He wants to make things right for everything that happened. Nothing else really happens as we finish Nicole's side quest and we go find the last couple of tentacle weak spots. Here, we meet Dr. Kine in person and he tells us that we have to return the marker. He also shows us the final boss of the game. Ooh, that looks fun. We agree that we'll take the marker back to colony, so Kine lets us in to destroy the last tentacle, giving us access to the shuttle bay. We install the core, give it a test fire, and finally, after so many chapters, we can now kill the hunter. After luring him behind the shuttle, making him start to regenerate and stasis in him, we restart the engine and... Well, you can't regenerate cells if there aren't any to regenerate. As we leave, a tentacle grabs our leg and we see what I think is probably the worst change in the remake. Here, we see Mercer pray to the marker, which leads to a tentacle grabbing the marker and crushing him against it. Now, this just feels underwhelming. He was one of the main antagonists of the game who did create the hunter. Now, in the original, he allowed an infector to grab him and turn him into a necromorph, which felt just a bit more fitting for his character as a unitologist. The chapter ends with us being dragged through the vents back to the bridge and destroying the tentacle that grabbed us. With the Ishimura being on the verge of destruction, the last survivors make a plan to get the marker and escape. I mentioned short chapters before, this is probably going to be the shortest. Simply enough, we have to head back to cargo and survive a gauntlet to get the marker. On our way, we get a new suit upgrade and fight off enemies to get the marker to the hangar bay. Here we see Kine and Kendra fly in and we have to manually move the marker into the ship. But on our way back to join the others on the ship, Kendra betrays us. She takes the marker and the shuttle and leaves us for dead on the Ishimura. Turns out, Kendra was working for EarthGov, the governing body of Earth and all its colonies. She was sent to get the marker and return it to them, using us to get what she wants. She exposition dumps for a bit before abandoning us, leaving us on this doomed ship with no escape.
It was all for nothing.
Nicole tells us of a way we can make this right though. We can remotely bring the shuttle back and take it to the colony ourselves. With a simple push of a button, we recall the ship and Kendra escaped on an escape pod. With the Ishimura on the verge of destruction, once we get on this shuttle and leave, we can never come back. So we end the chapter by leaving the planet cracker and it's time to finish what we started. Once we've landed on the colony, we get the marker out of the storage and turn the power back onto the area so we can return the marker to its pedestal. The chunk they took out the planet is starting to fall, which means it won't be long before it impacts the planet itself. We fight our way through gauntlets and necromorphs while making our way to the supply depot, only stopping to restore power, which means we have to traverse through our last real insta-kill section of the area. We simply have to replace 3 batteries and fly up through these fans using stasis to slow them down. Once we get to the pedestal, we have one last wave of enemies trying to stop us, but they're no match for us at this point. But after returning the marker, we see the tethers around the dig site start to break and we try to go restart them. Kendra returns and she reveals one of the game's biggest plot twists.
Can I see you again, Isaac? I loved you. I always
I've loved you.
Nicole's been dead this whole time, and Isaac knew she was dead but couldn't handle it and was in denial. The marker then used this denial to manipulate him. The woman we thought was Nicole this whole time was actually Elizabeth Cross from Hydroponics. She was having her own delusions that we were Jacob. Kendra kills Elizabeth and takes the marker back to the shuttle, but we have a chance to cut her off, which leads us to the final boss fight. This is the hive mind, and this is the thing that controls all the necromorphs attacking. The hive mind is split into 3 phases. The first phase has us shooting the weak spot on his face while trying to avoid the explosive growths he spits out at us. Once we get rid of all his weak spots, a wave of necromorphs will attack, which gives us more supplies while we're waiting for phase 2. Phase 2 has the hive mind slamming its tentacles onto the ground, and then its chest will open up, which gives us a chance to destroy the weak spots inside. After we destroy the first one, it'll start spitting acid onto the floor, which makes our player area just that bit smaller. Once we get rid of all its weak spots in its stomach, it'll start phase 3 where it grabs us and pulls us into the air. Now this is an insta-kill attack. If we don't destroy its weak spot in time, it will kill us. But thanks to our contact beam, we managed to beat it. Isaac rushes onto the shuttle and launches it into space, watching the chunk from the Ishimura hit the planet, destroying it. The last thing we see is Isaac sitting in the shuttle, pulling up Nicole's message one last time before ending it early, still unable to cope with Nicole's death. And with that, impossible mode is complete. I got my last achievement in the remake, and honestly I expected it to be a lot harder than it was. There was only a few moments I really worried there, mostly with the Leviathan boss fight, but honestly once the weapons were upgraded, it just felt like a normal playthrough. What do you actually get for beating Impossible Mode? Well, you get 2 unique rewards, plus I'll show you a reward that you get for just playing New Game Plus. First, when you start New Game Plus, when you get to your first shop, you will find the EDF rig. These are seen on the Valor soldiers, and honestly, the soldiers just look sick. It's a militaristic suit that gives Isaac more armor. Now, the unique suit we get is called the Burnished suit, a silver and black suit with a blood red visor. This just looks badass, but the real reward we're here for is the hand cannon. This was a reward you could get in Dead Space 2 by completing the hardcore mode, and it is just a goofy weapon to mess around with. It's a huge foam finger and, well, have a look for yourself. This thing kills anything in just one, and lets you really just mess around the Ishimura with no real worries about enemies. But that ends my run and this video. I got my 100% in the Dead Space remake, and honestly this year I'm going to try post some decent videos. I had a lot of fun doing this run, and hopefully you enjoyed watching it. I have some ideas I want to do, maybe some game reviews or some challenge run, or maybe even just Let's Plays with friends. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.